Hello, I'm going to start today with an exercise on taking notes because this is the promised second half of Notes on Notebooks, but I thought I'd start with something practical. This is what I drafted for this exercise. Suggestions as to how to improve it are welcomed. Advice is useless if it is too general. If I were to say to you, write down everything interesting, that would be almost nonsense. But I will give you this exercise. Fetch a notebook and pen or equivalent. For the next 5 minutes, put a timer on if you need, write what you can see in front of you without moving your head. You can, however, move your eyes. It may be that you can't see much more than this page you are reading, or the page that you then are writing on. And it may be that you can't see more than one or two of your hands. If you have more than two, that'd be interesting. And your lower half a little further off. So what's in front of you, you'll definitely have the notebook, the pencil, pen you're writing with, and your hand. Here is more than enough to write about for 5 minutes. This isn't intended to be fine writing, great prose, though you should aim to make these whole sentences rather than a list. If you're not interested in doing this exercise, if you think it sounds very boring indeed, ask yourself what that means about the kind of attention you're willing to pay. Are you only interested in subjects that are alien or invisible to you? In fact, things that just aren't there in front of you? Would you have preferred it if I had said, imagine the capital city in an invented country. Now describe a visitor entering it for the first time. I mean, if you want to do that as an exercise, you can do it. How would you have felt if I'd asked you to do some free-floating world building? Something for a fantasy novel or something for a historical novel? Would you have preferred that to what's right in front of you, and if so, why? Obviously, this exercise is partly based on my novel Patience, where the main character, Elliot, can't move, he's quadriplegic, he has to look at what's right in front of him, and the novel starts with 8 or 9 pages of a white wall. That was a challenge to write, but it was also something that I had been doing anyway in terms of meditation practice, just seeing what was in front of me, but also writing, just seeing what was in front of me. The writer who I think does this, and if you want to track this down, I would recommend it if you're interested in this kind of approach, is R.F. Langley. R.F. Langley's journals are a sort of attempt to do an en plein air, like the Impressionists did, approach to writing, which is go to a place, sit in a country church, watch the light change, spend an hour taking very, very precise notes. I think it's interesting that writers don't tend to do this, or as far as I'm aware, it doesn't seem to be a genre. There's also the poetry book, Kalagoda Poems by Arun Kolatkar, which were written by a poet who went and sat in the same place week after week, year after year, and I think they're fascinating. Now a few of those notes on notebooks. What I said last time, and I think this is true, is that notebooks aren't just a single thing. Obviously you write down shopping lists, you write down random lists of words or names in them, but I think there are 3 main sorts of notebooks. There's pocket books, which you carry around and which you can use in many ways. And then there are scrapbooks. And this, I would say, are more for gathering together things you've been thinking about for a while. You might keep a pocket book, but then copy things out of it into a scrapbook. And then finally there's workbooks, which is where you use the notebook when you're out, when you haven't got an A4 page or a laptop. You use your small notebook as a workbook to draft a few pages of what you're doing, your major project. And it seems to me those need to be distinguished I don't think I need to say more about them than I've said. I use a pocketbook in every possible way I can think of. I'm trying to find different ways of using it, drawing in it, making lists, indexing it, copying things out of previous notebooks, all of that good stuff, in order to make it somewhere that's a workspace that I want to be, and that if I get stuck without something to read, I can read my own notebook back. So I've had some interesting responses about notebooks. I'm wondering whether this is worth adding. Let me know your thoughts. Should I subdivide notebooks into pocketbooks, scrapbooks and workbooks, or is it fine to just be a bit vaguer? Please like, share and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon.